Now, speaking of medicine.
The great
Medicine.
That's very controversial for some.
Medicine is also drugs, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I mean, what drugs shouldn't I mean, there are those drugs that come and they, you know, on the pack it says do not operate heavy machinery, right? But there's a drug that doesn't tell you that.
Okay.
Yeah? Like, you know, I just have a headache, I pop like 2 maramojas, but 1 hour later the headache is still there, I pop some more because I'm self-medicating, for example.
Okay.
But what is your take on drugs? Like, what is my mental health, my state of mind, drugs, riding, you know, operating heavy machinery.
Like a 500cc bike.
Yeah, like you know, I'm on the spectrum of maybe I'm not having the best day ever.
Sure.
I've popped a pillow too. You know, for the headache. You know, let's just take it as the one for the headache. And I feel like I need to get on my bike and ride, maybe to make me feel better. But I've drugged on an empty stomach, say for example.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Do not use psychoactive substances and get on the bike. I repeat, do not. When we use psychoactive substances, which is now what I'm putting in the category of substances of abuse, so things like alcohol, the benzodiazepines that we use for anxiety, I'm talking about stimulants like cocaine, heroin, which are some of the common things that we use, even things like Mira. I do not advocate for substance use and getting on the bike, because every drug you use, similar to the way what we eat goes digestive process and gets into the bloodstream, goes into the brain, drugs work in the same way. And they go to the brain and act on different parts of the brain to produce certain reactions. Wow. So that's why you may drink a bit of alcohol and then feel a bit loose like a goose. Fluid. You know? You get a bit elated. But you notice when you consume more alcohol, you start to, your visual acuity is impaired, so you're likely to see things more blurry, you're staggering. So it means the alcohol is acting on parts of the brain that are responsible for movement, coordination, for seeing. And they also affect parts of the brain responsible for reacting. So if you see a car and then brake, or you see a car and then swerve, different drugs, depending on the class of the drug, acts on different parts of the brain. So what the implications of that is, you're going to compromise yourself and other people on the road when you use substances. If your visual acuity is impaired, then you're not going to see cars as fast as you should, or see that cat that runs across the road. If your coordination is not as good, you'll think you're braking as fast as you should, but you probably haven't. You may think you're riding straight, but you're riding across the road. You may not see debris, especially if we drink at night. So you end up compromising things. And then depending on what substances you use, the kind of chemistry you already have in the brain, you have a likelihood of triggering, you know, things like hallucinations. You may see things that are not there, which can be very dangerous for not just for you, but for other people on the road. So I always advocate for, it is better not to use any substances and operate machinery, especially if you are on treatment or it has not been prescribed for you. Yeah.
But also, Tina, if I have, say, for example, high blood pressure,
sure,
right? I'm on drugs, you know, to keep me going. Is that okay?
Okay.
Is it okay to have pre-existing conditions and still enjoy being on a heavy machine of 500cc?
In the interest of full disclosure, I am a mental health practitioner, so my recommendation would be take your medication as is prescribed by the doctor. So that's important for me to disclaim. However, you need to understand what kind of medication you're taking and if that medication has any impact on your safety on the road. So for example, if you're on a medication that would likely make you to be sedated, then it is not advisable.
Obviously.
And this happens sometimes with the medications we have for mental illness, where if you're not sleeping, they will need you to sleep or they just have a very sedative effect. So you may take the medication at night but wake up the next day and you're still drowsy and sleepy. It's not advisable for you to get on the road. Sometimes it's not even an issue of the medication you've taken, but maybe a combination of the medications you've taken. So for example, if I'm HIV positive and then I've combined that with a different medication, drug-to-drug interactions can cause certain effects.
I see.
So it's important for you to take your medication as the doctor prescribes, but it's also important for you to discuss with your healthcare provider what your lifestyle looks like, so that you know if any drug interactions, side effects, or adverse side effects, adverse drug reactions could affect your ability on the road.
Wow, interesting. Wow, guys. So do not take drugs and ride or operate heavy machinery. Nay. That one is clear, right? That's very interesting that, that we take for granted the things we can do, say when I find that our society allows for you to have a beer and drive.
Absolutely, yeah.
But then it shouldn't apply for have a beer and ride, But still, there are those people who break the rules, and it definitely affects all of us.
Right.
So if you're doing it, please, by all means, stop.
Right. And Ms. Nyawira, can I add something in terms of tolerance? We have this misconception that I can have one beer. I've had one beer and driven or ridden and I'm fine. But if you continue to use substances, different substances, you develop a tolerance. So you don't need one beer to get high, but you need 2 beers to get high or 3 beers. So you gradually increase your consumption, which will still compromise some of your mental functions. So let's not get into that illusion that I can have one. I don't need to have 3.
Okay.
Just don't.
All right.
You can wait.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, just to bring us back to Inked Sisterhood, and all those who have joined us as members and those who'd like to join us, we also do help a lot with that kind of anxiety, especially of getting back on the road, where we encourage mentorship, and we also have our Nyumba Kumi initiatives, which also help you try and get back on track, And I feel in the case of, say, you're going for a group ride and you have a pre-existing condition, or there's something that is disturbing you in terms of stress and all that, would you recommend that somebody shares with at least one person in the group, just in case?
Absolutely,
Like if say I'm diabetic and I'm in a group ride, and I can feel my sugar levels are going down, would it be something important to encourage somebody to just put themselves out there as without being victimized? Because that's another thing. I don't want not to be invited for a ride because hey, who's going to give her that jab? Yeah. So what would you say to me who has a pre-existing condition and how I should manage it with my community?
Right.
Yeah.
So hey, pre-existing condition is what it is. There's a space in the world for you. That is not an issue. What is important is to assess your ability to show up on the road, follow the rules of the road, not compromise your safety and not compromise the safety of others. That is very, very important. However, in our biking communities, we tend to be very organized. Every time we go for a ride, you have road marshals, you have somebody who's a lead, somebody who's a sweep. So if you know you are already on a ride or you're headed for a ride, you've insisted on going and you're not at your best, identify who the road marshals are, and you can be positioned at a place on the road that is safer for everybody. For example, if I'm very anxious and very prone to anxiety, then I'm better off being placed closer to the back than closer to the front, because my reaction time, how I respond to the road, is likely to affect the people who are directly behind you. So even based on your health conditions, it's possible for you there are accommodations that can be made for you on the road. But more importantly, if you're not ready to be on the road, think of not just yourself but the people around you. It's okay, we'll always have another ride.
Wow. So guys, you can be whoever you are, doing what you do, just do it in a safe space, in a safe way, like Tina has said.
Prosper.
Yeah, let's prosper on the road. So now, Tina, something else that keeps coming back and forth, and like right now, we have a situation where our roads are being fixed. They're all over the place. A bump that you didn't leave there yesterday is there today, and all that. And unfortunately, it has led to a couple of losses, right, in our families, in our communities. And this takes a toll not just on the direct family, but also on us who are left behind, us who are riding with you. And there's a lot of heaviness in our hearts about how do we deal with that loss. You know, yesterday we were together, a few hours we were together, and something has happened. You know, how do we come back to ourselves and not let that situation affect my riding, you know, without looking like I didn't care about the person who's left, you know. Yeah.
And you know, the sad thing about us as bikers, by choosing to get on the road, you choose to take the risk that comes with being on the road. And I think all of us are subject to being compared to a car, where a car has this barrier that will protect you, but you are essentially the bike. So it is scary, and it's sadly a reality that we will continue to experience. Even if we look at our national data, a lot of the people who die on the road are people who die from motorcycle-related accidents. So this is inclusive of borders. So there's a certain risk that we carry. But a lot of the instructors who teach us, I think when I was initially being taught by Johnny Rungu, Malibu, one of the things he said, it's really about risk awareness, and you know, you're able to anticipate the risk and prepare and manage the risk. So it's always helpful when we lose someone. It's also helpful to go back to that space of, this is a loss, it can happen to me. Grieve and feel what you need to feel. Give yourself a bit of time, but you also need to recognize that you have a responsibility to be safe on the road. So part of actually managing your loss is taking care of yourself on the road. Wear your gear. Assess your mental state. Are you ready to get on the road? Are you ready to be on the road for other people? Then when it comes to, and just give yourself a step at a time. Again, you can reintroduce yourself to biking if this was very painful to you. The other thing I would recommend in terms of coping, yes, you can give it a bit of time, but you can also find ways to memorialize. I think one of the ways we can do it as a community, a biking community, is we can come and memorialize the people who we've lost. And that can give us a sense of community. And if you feel like you're struggling with that loss on a personal level, maybe this person was dear to you or it triggered something in you, it's okay to actually talk to a counselor, talk to some friends, and that can actually help you process and come to terms with the grief and the loss. Yeah, but getting back on the road is a day at a time. It's a day at a time.
Back to anxiety. You know, I've had to experience this loss in a very different way, where I've joined a community. I didn't know the person directly, but I can see how it's affecting them, you know, so much that it's scaring me,
of course,
you know. And then I think about it, I'm like, okay, how do I get over that fear? Because like you said, the fact that you're riding in itself, right, puts you at a higher risk than the driver, than the pedestrian, say, you know. But how do I get to a place where that's not the thing I'm thinking about?
Right.
You know, that it could be me. How do I free myself and just ride for myself without those thoughts keeping on, you know, coming and attacking me? You know, the kadevil. You know, that kadevil. Yeah.
Right. Well, you know, you've said it could be me. Maybe it can be you as well. So also mentally embracing the reality that is the risk, and then doing your best to prepare yourself for the road. Then now again, if you're anxious, if you find you're feeling anxious, then those breathing exercises, taking a few deep breaths, visualizing yourself being calm. These are some of the anxiety management strategies we use in psychotherapy. Taking a few deep breaths, calming down, visualizing yourself being calm. There are some muscle relaxations we tend to do. We call them progressive muscle relaxation. So if you have a bit of tension, a bit of stretching, that release of the tension helps you to feel a little calmer. And then now just gradually reintroduce yourself back to the road. It also mentally or cognitively, in terms of thoughts, it helps for you to look back on all the other days you've been on the road and you've been safe. Because what tends to happen is when you experience something like this, you see now the worst possible outcome, and you look for all the opportunities around how you could end up in the same situation. but you've shown up on the road many times and have been safe. You've also been in dangerous situations and survived. So mentally identifying those can also help to balance. Yeah, there's some strategies we usually use for anxiety and depression for disputing your thoughts. So if you have thoughts, ask what factual evidence do you have that supports the thought that if I get on the road, I'll die. And you can list them because they're there. And then what factual evidence do you have that disputes that thought? And then you will have facts for that. Then now, how do I balance the two?
Interesting.
So you can come back and say, hey, getting on the road is a risk. I know that. I will gear up. I'll make sure my mindset is straight. I'll plan my route. I'll pray if that's your thing. And then you get back on the road.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how then also, I have done an outride for somebody who has left us, and there's those thoughts that go in your head even in the outride, you know, and you're like, wow, you know, anything could happen. And I guess you're right that you have to weigh the options and say, I'm here now, you know, and I could do what I have been doing to keep myself safe, you know. But then there's always that being able to even talk to this family. You know, what do we say? As the community who, you know, in a way we have been like, you guys, you know, you guys could die. Like, why do you do these risky things? You know, and here we are, we've come into these families who don't know us personally, but we knew their person, and we are trying to say pole.
Yeah.
You know? But you can see the pain they're having.
Yeah.
When we go in our gear and our helmets, does it hurt them more? Are we helping that situation? Or are we saying it's okay to continue riding? They've just lost someone. Like, you know, how do we comfort them first? Because now we've woken up to the fact that we don't have our person anymore. Right? And we want to go say sorry to this family, but we're going in these bikes.
Yeah.
You know, how do we say sorry to them without making the grief too much?
Compounding it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, I think this is my favorite question, because this is it's a different question, and it's a reality. We, first of all, comforting somebody who's lost a loved one is a universal problem. There's so many web pages on how to comfort people who have been bereaved. So I think ours, and that's where your question is, adds that double layer of, we have come here as a representation of what, this is what took our person away, and you are displaying that representation. I think one of the first things is ask them if it's okay to be in their space. This is our person, we lost this person, we are concerned about you as a family, we would like to condole with you, is that okay? And then you can ask them in what way it would be respectful to them for you to show up. So if you come and somebody has a bike that's exactly the same, that could be a bit triggering. So you may want to find out in what way you can show up respectfully. And then if they do allow you that, because most will, just be there with them. Say pole, the same way you do for anyone else. Be there with them, say pole. Realistically share the level of support you're willing to give. We can assist in contribution, we are willing to outride. I think it is very important for us to be very sensitive about how we post messages of people who have been bereaved, because we end up inadvertently traumatizing other people and re-traumatizing the family. So as a way of also condoling with the family, I think we need to be sensitive about what we post. And then if we do make any commitments as a biking community, honor your commitment. If I say I will be there for you in the first year memorial, please be there. But the most important is just to ask them the permission to be in their space, and if there's any requirements or concerns they would have around you coming, and then just be with them, condole, say pole, and support. So it's a risk, and you cannot predict for everybody. For some people, part of the natural, we didn't talk about symptoms of grief, but one of the common things about grief is anger. So it's very normal for me to look and say, if you guys didn't take him for that ride, he would still be here. Maybe just recognizing that's a normal expression of grief, and not doing anything to aggravate that situation. So if it's triggering and you recognize you're triggering, remove yourself in a respectful way. just to allow people the safety to grieve. And then as a biking community, we can also come and collectively grieve in a way that we understand. Light a candle, do a ride, have a fund drive, whatever it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. So thank you so much for that. I think that's one of the things I have personally struggled with. How do I go to this family?
Yeah.
And it's someone else has taken care of that detail for calling.
It's difficult.
Yeah, it is difficult. So thank you so much for giving us strategies on how to cope with the things that we're going through. There are other questions that we have, and we will be back shortly after this break. So Tina, now let me tell you.
Tell me.
Have you ever been on your bike and then you just maka, you just stuka, and then you get butterflies like they're eating you up?
Right.
Yeah. What am I supposed to do when that happens?
Okay. So butterflies is supposed to be the universal. Oh wow! It's a universal sign of two things. You're either anxious or you're in love. So we're assuming this is about being anxious, eh?
Anxious.
Yeah. Okay. So let me tell you guys something about anxiety so that you can understand the butterflies and every reaction. Every emotion and feeling we have in our body has a very unique signature. So it serves a purpose it's linked to something. I am anxious because I am threatened. I feel threatened. Our biggest threat in life is death and everything that comes with it. So illness, injury, heartbreak, whatever the spectrum. So when we feel anxious, it's because our mind has detected a threat around us. The threat could be real or imagined. So it could be, I had a car screeching and then I panic. It could be that. It could also be I'm on an easy road, it's safe, and I'm thinking, oh my God, what if a car appears and I die? It hits me and I die. Either way, your brain doesn't know the difference. It triggers an anxiety reaction. Yeah. So one of the ways we notice that anxiety is our heart will beat faster, we may feel tingly, or our blood will rush from the hands and go to the muscles, and then we may also feel butterflies. So what I recommend if you're on the road, because anxiety can help you more alert, but it can also compromise your alertness if it's too high. At the first signs of being alert, anxious, and the butterflies, just take a few deep breaths in. Usifunge macho, just.
So ni kama bado in motion?
While in motion. If you feel the anxiety is now extreme, so that means now you're not able to concentrate. Weka hazards, kama uko na hazards. Weka indicator. I think we all have indicators. Park your bike. Put your bike. Establish a safe place to park your bike. Zima. And then take a few deep breaths. So that's very, very important. So if you feel anxiety at the moment, just take a few deep breaths. If you're able to proceed. If you feel like you are not able to concentrate, take a break. Now, the thing is, what happens when you've been in a threatening situation, like a real one? Let's say I had an accident. A truck was 2 seconds away from running over me. Then the next day when I'm back on that road, I now...
Yeah.
Sasa na maka. So now the thing hasn't happened then, but my body is reacting in the same way. It helps a whole lot again to try and calm down. Put your bike on the road, zima, be safe, take a few deep breaths, calm down. That's very, very important. It may also be helpful maybe when you're not on the road to try and what's happening with that anxiety. Your brain is trying to scan the environment for any danger. So even though it's not happened again, your brain is looking for it. So one of the things we have to recognize, if you've actually been in a threatening situation, your brain needs a bit of time to process it. So I need you to recognize that you also just need to give it time. What happens in that time is what makes the bigger difference. If in that time you're now more anxious, your thoughts become scary, what if I'll die, maybe also you just need to take a short break from the riding and then reintroduce yourself back to the riding, what I had told you earlier. You can also get a beshte to go with you, but don't rely on the beshte too much because that may also just maintain your anxiety. You may think that I cannot be on the road if I'm not with somebody.
I see.
Yeah, so you can actually get back on the road with people. Anytime the anxiety comes, just take a few deep breaths. Your brain will learn to notice the fear and then know, okay, let me breathe. I can calm down, I'll be okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can mark her on the road.
It's very, very true.
And then now the triggers where maybe someone hooting just triggers you, like you said, or seeing a truck triggers you.
Yes, because those are your brain again is picking up the threats. Anything that's so a sudden sound is a threat. It's an auditory threat because loud sounds are sometimes linked to danger. Okay. So that's your brain just trying to, it's working overdrive, but it's trying to protect you. Right. So I think that's important to keep in mind. Okay. A quick disclaimer, if you go through something stressful, traumatic, and then unamaka kila saa, for even over a month, you're still shtukai. You're having nightmares, you're withdrawn, your behavior has just really changed. Maybe you're not coping with that thing very well. Those could be signs of what we call post-traumatic stress disorder. So you may need to see someone if it persists over a month, well after the incident has issued. But usually with time, it should be able to go away. Okay. Yes.
All right. Yeah. That's very helpful. Yeah. Okay. Yay. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Now, I can see here that there are new riders, you know, who have just come out of riding, say, with Malibu, and they have their new bike. And then, I've been riding for a minute, but my bike is very plain. I mean, my helmet is very plain. But they're coming with these Bluetooth, GoPro,
like a transformer,
my lights. Like it's wow. You know, it's a wow.
It's a wow.
Yeah, it's a big wow. Is this wow a good thing, a bad thing? I mean, I see the excitement of starting to ride and saying, hey, check out, this is my unique thing, you know. But what do you have to say about, say, the Bluetooth, for example? Right. Yeah? And listening to music while riding. Right. Yeah.
I mean, first things first, people, let's not feel the need to conform to pressure. You can still have a pleasant riding experience without GoPro and a hands-free kit and a Bluetooth. Let's keep that in mind. So I think there's an element of peer influence that's making us, is cheating us that the riding experience should have all those things. I think your riding experience can be enhanced by those things, but let's not pressure ourselves. Now, there's definitely a controversy around having, especially things that auditory stimulation when you're on the road. I was just mentioning to Miss Nyawira earlier that today, in 5 or so years of riding, is the first time I've actually read and listening to music, and I know that's one of the very controversial things. What I will say about that is, it really comes down to how that music is affecting your cognitive function. So it's affecting what we call mental processes. How is it affecting your memory? How is it affecting your concentration? How is it affecting your decision making? How is it affecting even some of your ability to hear because you're listening to music? If any of those sounds are compromising that on the road, then you're better off not listening to sounds and music. That is advisable. There are some people who listen to music and find they are able to concentrate better. They are able to feel relaxed on the road, which makes them more focused. So that's really, really good. There are some studies that have been done in music psychology. In fact, my undergrad research was actually on how we respond emotionally to music.
Hey, Tina, let me tell you. So I've been riding for a minute. But then also, there are other people who are coming into the riding sector with very fancy helmets, my lights, I got things over here, Bluetooth, speaker even, like it even has, they look like they're over here controlling some patrol somewhere, you know, they're on patrol all the time. Is all this wow necessary? Like, on a serious?
Right.
Yeah,
I think...
How does it affect my riding? Bluetooth, camera, lights, stickers. Yeah. It's a lot.
Okay, I think first of all, let's be clear that you don't need all of those gadgets to have a good riding experience. It's good to have them and they can enhance, but I think there's a little bit of pressure to have a lot of these things so that you can make your riding experience as enjoyable. I think for me, the bottom line comes to why do you need those things? For you personally, why do you feel you need those devices? And I'll focus perhaps like on a Bluetooth device because having something auditory stimulation in your ear can also affect your concentration on the road.
But it can also give me psych.
It can give you dunda, big beats.
Yeah,
it's true.
Motivation, like motivation. I'm going a long ride. Yeah.
So you're riding Kimende and it's like 12 degrees and you need to survive.
Yeah.
So you need some music to motivate you through the fog and the zero visibility. I get it.
Okay,
I get
okay.
it. Yes. So the bottom line is people listen to music. If you're listening to music, you're listening to it for different reasons. Some people will listen to the music to make the journey feel shorter, others to increase their motivation to ride, others to help to calm them down. So the thing about that is ensure that whatever you're listening to is not interfering with the rest of your senses, because you've reduced auditory senses. So if you're listening to music, for example, and I think the musicians recognize this, different aspects of music will affect your emotional state. In fact, that's the research I did for my undergraduate paper, where your emotions, elements of music will affect your emotions. So one of the things I was able to find is, let's say if you're listening to soft, calm music, it will help you feel calmer and relaxed. If you listen to up, pumpy music, it will increase your heart rate, it will make you feel more energized. So it actually depends on your state of mind when you're on the road. There are certain times when you're listening to certain stimuli and it will actually compromise your concentration on the road. So let's say if it is too loud on a road that's too busy, if you're moving too slow, you're having to pay attention to a lot of visual stimuli. You're supposed to, it's dark, maybe it's the road
Raining.
is under construction, it's raining, Mombasa Road. You have no business listening to music that will compromise your ability to concentrate on that road. Similarly, if you're listening to music, depending on your emotional state, for example, like if you're angry and you find yourself listening to music that's faster, higher tempo, it's likely to increase the level of activation. So you may end up being either more anxious or more agitated. That can make you a lot more reckless on the road. So you have to really pay attention to what the music is doing to you, and if it is compromising your ability to concentrate on the road, then it's advisable not to listen. But I've seen people who actually are able to listen to music and concentrate very well. In fact, it makes them more present on the road. So I think it's also down to individual preference, and then in those individual preferences, your state of mind at the time you're getting on the road.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's just Bluetooth. Easy GoPro. Because I've seen they're even mounted on the side, others here on the chin.
Nyawira, do you have a GoPro?
I do.
You have a GoPro. Where do you mount it?
On top of my helmet.
Okay.
Yeah. But to be honest, sometimes it gives me stress.
Okay.
I'm riding and then there's something I want, and then I realize it even went off a long time. I get home, I'm so disappointed. I didn't get the footage I was expecting. And then sometimes it makes noises, and I'm like,
do pressure also to is it
Kwanzaa, let me tell you, I usually want to turn it to see my environment,
Are you on the road that time?
Yeah, sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah, I see how it can compromise my concentration.
Yes.
But then the footage.
The footage, though.
Yeah.
It's good for the likes.
Yeah.
And the follows.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, having a GoPro that's not the issue. If it affects your ability to concentrate on the road, it makes you distracted, it reduces your reaction time, then that's where the problem is. And I think we've actually seen a very good initiative. I've seen this going in one of my Nyumba Kumis, in the Langata Nyumba Kumi, where if you have footage of things that have happened on the road, then you can actually send them to, I can't remember the website or the portal to send them to, so that you can actually report things that are happening that are compromising road safety. So provided that's not getting in the way of your riding, whether you place it here or here or here,
doesn't matter.
or here, if it doesn't compromise your riding, then it could actually enhance your riding experience. It will create very good memories for you, which will, keep you warm in your old age, we hope, or it will at least give you a source of income. It can promote road safety. But if it affects your ability to concentrate, then that's where the problem is. Yeah.
Okay, I'll have a talk with my GoPro.
Right.
Yeah, because story footage. Yes. By the way, I respect all the vloggers very much because it is work. Yes. It is a lot of work.
Miss Nyawira would benefit from a tutorial on GoPro use. And the first 5 people are going to win a special gift.
From Tina. Don't come to me, from Tina.
Free mental health screening.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we basically addressed a whole lot of the things that you brought to our attention. We are willing to do this over and over again. So please, if you have any comments, please subscribe first and then leave comments, and we are very willing to come back and address this, with other experts. So thank you so much, Tina, for making time for us today. Thank you very much, Sisterhood, for facilitating this, and we look forward to a whole lot more of this. Thank you very much to Karunguru Tea Estate. Coffee Estate.